This is the final talk in the series on cross-shaped living. And we're going to act it out this morning. We're going to bury some people in this pond here. We're going to actually bury them. A watery grave. Seems very appropriate. The question of who I am. Tom mentioned at the end there, who am I? That is a big, big question for Western society at the moment, isn't it? Who am I? We're kind of familiar with the question. When you're a kid, Uncle whatever says, "Oh, what are you going to be, Johnny?" And you say, "I don't know." And it's a question that kind of grows in kind of pressure and momentum as you go through your teenage years. And everybody's asking you, "What are you going to be?" And you think, "I'm going to be bigger? I'm going to be, maybe have a beard or something like that. I don't know. Who am I?" But this question of identity has become a massive thing for us in Western society. Choosing your identity has become very important. I don't know whether a lot of your guests here today, maybe you've just started coming recently to the church, and people in the coffee time beforehand, they say, "Who are you?" Now, I just want to admit to you, come up front, I have a speech problem, a stammer. I am a recovering stammerer. Okay. Those coffee times are an absolute nightmare for me, because somebody says to me, "What's your name?" Now, I cannot say my name. You'll have noticed I have not introduced myself yet. Everybody else? I said, "I'm whatever, and this is who I am." I never do that. You'll notice that at the beginning of my preach, I never say who I am, because I can't say my name. Most of the time, as I'm going along, I will change what I say, answers I can give, but I can't change my name. Well, you were Tom last week. You were Joel the week before. You were Rodney the week before that. What actually is your name? Well, I'm not even going to go there. Right? I also have a job that I can't change, and I can't say what that is either. So my identity is very complicated. Thankfully, I have a wife. She communicates for me. You say to me, "What do you do?" I will say it's probably something like teeth, because I can say teeth. And you'll try and work out what that is. And guesses? I'm a dentist. Yeah. You see, once you've said it, I can say it. Right? Okay. So identity, which is all wrapped up in that sort of thing, is very complicated for me. Now, partly because when you discover that I'm a dentist, you think, "Oh, he's a bloody butcher." You remember all those bad experiences you had in your life of somebody doing that to you, doing something to you, and you don't like that. So I could choose my alternative career, which is like being a preacher, and you think, "Oh my goodness, I do not want to spend any time with this guy. He's a religious nutter." And so that's the end of conversation. End of my time. Who am I? Well, the fact is that today we're going to celebrate with 3 people who have chosen an identity. An identity that is found not in what they do, not in what color they are, not in what their preferences are sexually or gender-wise, not preferences, whether they fit within society or anything like that. They've chosen to identify with one man who lived 2,000 years ago, who died on a cross and came through death and out the other side. That's what we're doing today. When we take them over here, they're going to stand here, they're going to get in the water, and we're going to plunge them in. And it's a funeral service. It's a funeral. Really, I'm screwing up your sound. I'll let you sort it out. Okay. We're going to plunge them in, and we're going to... There we go. bury them in this water. And that is an identification with the death of Jesus when he went into the grave. We're not going to leave them there. We'll hold them there for a while. Come on, guys. You guys who are doing the baptism, just keep them down there for a little while. It's got to feel that pain. I remember my baptism. I've no idea when it was, actually, because I was going to say to you guys who are getting baptized, today is the 17th of March, 2024. Remember that date. It was the date of your funeral. Hallelujah. I don't remember my day. I can remember standing at the top of the steps, looking down on this scummy water, because the previous night, 30 people had got baptized and they had all their dandruff floating on the surface. I remember the guy going down in the pool and just clearing it off. But I remember that sense of this is the end of one life and the beginning of a new one. Can I switch over? You want me to switch over? Okay. Right. Wherever. Is this easier to move around with? Okay, so. Where was I? Start of a new one. Because we're not leaving them there. Start of a new life. Because we bring them out and they identify with the resurrection of Jesus. The passage I'm going to look at this morning is from the book of Galatians, and it's chapter 2, verse 20. We've got it on the slide. Amazing, we've got a slide. Isn't that exciting, guys? Pete Sainer has a slide. Treasure it, just the one. Let's read this. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. I am crucified with Christ. That is a current thing. I am crucified with Christ. You might think this is something that happened a long time ago and now we're living our own lives as we go along. But what you're doing by getting into that water is saying, I place my identity in that death on a cross. And as we sum up this series, I want you to recognize that's the truth. If you're a Christian today, you identify your life. Whatever else matters to you, whatever else is important to you, whatever else people think about you, whatever else that you hope for and dream for in your life, your identity is in Christ. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Nevertheless, I live. He doesn't leave me there. He doesn't leave me in the pit. He doesn't leave me in the tomb. Nevertheless, I live. But just in case you're worried that now you're on your own, you identify with Christ, and I no longer live, what am I going to do now? Yet not I, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. That's the incredible hope we have. That as you come out of that water, Jesus is going to go with you. Jesus is going to live through you. That old life has ended. Now, like Helmut said, she grew up in a Christian home, and all sorts of things. She made a choice a long time ago. Others, they've prayed, they've started following Jesus. That's why we're doing this for them. They've already made that decision. They've just been carrying around an old life with them until today, and it ends there. And the life they now live, they're going to live by the faithfulness of Jesus, by the power of him, because he's going to go with them. He will be in their lives from now on. Because, why? Because he loved us. Because he loved us. Now, identity is a funny thing, isn't it? We're going to come back to that question of love, because in this search that Western society has for identity now, people are trying on all sorts of different clothes, aren't they? Trying all sorts of different things to justify themselves. And they're discovering rapidly that identity is a tricksy thing. It's a tricky thing. And there are various reasons for that. One of the reasons which this taking on the identity of Jesus solves for you, first thing is that fashions come and go with identity. Those things that were things that badges of pride 20 years ago, even last year, are now things that can get you cancelled. Things that you don't want to have anymore. Fashions come and go in identity. The good news, as Kelly was saying this morning, she was singing over us, Jesus is constant and faithful. When you look at Jesus, the life of Jesus, you see a life lived in perfection, lived so full of grace, so full of care, so full of love, so expansive and inclusive, so beautiful. It's a life, when you look at the Gospels and you read the life of this man Jesus, that's a life that you want to emulate. But the good news is that life did not finish there. It carries on and on and on and on and on, and it's never going to end. And if you want to get cancelled for something, get cancelled for this. Take the identity of Jesus on your life. It's worth it. The thing that you thought that's going to be great for me just now. I love the way it makes me popular. I love the way that it stands me out of the crowd. It makes me separate, makes me different, or makes me included, or whatever those things are. All those things, they're never going to compare to taking on the life of Jesus, which he's offering to you freely as a gift to you. Second reason why Jesus is better than any other identity is that all other identities will kind of squeeze you a little bit into their size. They're going to suffocate and restrict you from living the life that you want to live. You're going to suddenly find a year or two down the line that they're not up to the job. Maybe you've grown a bit. Maybe you've got a little bit fatter. Okay? And that identity is kind of still hanging around you, and every stitch is doing its duty as you try to burst out of it. Actually, the good news about Jesus is he will free you. He sets you free. He's big enough for you. He's never going to, you're never going to outgrow Jesus. He will always be big enough for you. His person and his character, and the thing that he's going to do for you in creating space for you is always going to give you enough. Taking on the identity of Jesus, even as a young child, even as a 3-year-old, as soon as you understand what that is, he will grow with you. Those of you who are in your 80s and your 90s, who've followed Jesus all your life, you've known that he's never restricted you in where you are. He's always been enough for you, whereas all other identities will restrict you. The final thing that I say about the identity of Jesus, how it's better than any other identity, is that all other identities have a kind of limited lifespan. but Jesus goes on forever. You'll never reach the end of it. You'll never reach the end of him. He brings you into an eternity with him. There's going to come a point when other identities they've kind of run out. They're kind of last year's thing. They're kind of not just that. They've just exhausted their potential. But Jesus goes on forever. And like I said, if you're in your 80s now, you can probably testify to the way that Jesus has always gone. And the good news is that when you actually die, and somebody puts you in a box in the ground or burns you up, that actually there is a resurrection life ahead of you where you will be with Jesus. And carrying that identity is just so permanent and so safe and so secure and so real. So, how about you? Maybe you've come here as a guest this morning. Maybe you've come here because somebody's kind of said, you've got to, I'm getting wet. Come and see what happens. Come and see if they bring me out again. Just do it for me. Please, please, please come. How about you? Where are you with your identity? How's it going for you? How is your identity choices shaping up? The kind of conversations that I was mentioning earlier about what you do and stuff like that. Are you a builder or electrician or a plumber? If you're a plumber, actually, can you see me later? How's that identity working for you? What about being a teacher or a computer expert? Are those things going to satisfy you for life? What about the identity you chose of being a mother or a father? About being a husband or a wife? Is that enough? Is that satisfying you? These are all good things. They're just not enough. At some point, they're going to restrict you. They're going to make you wonder whether there's more. Maybe it's time this morning to refound your identity, to reset it, to take this opportunity. You didn't plan on this morning. You just thought you were just going to come and be nice. You thought you'd just come upstairs in Gilbourne Centre and like, yeah. The coffee's a little bit weak, but it's okay. But actually, this could be the start of a brand new life for you. To identify with the living God who died and gave himself for you. To take on his identity. I have been crucified with Christ and I no longer live. The life I now live in the body, I live through the faithfulness of Jesus, who is going to be faithful to you forever and ever and ever. Why not take this opportunity to find yourself in that? You've tried all sorts of other things. You've tried all sorts of other ways of doing it. Today, you can find the real thing. The real thing. Jesus exemplifies what humans could be. What humans could demonstrate in this amazing world in which we live. He is the one who shows what it is to be truly human. Now, if you've never looked at that, we do various courses. We'll chat to you about stuff. The people you came with, some of the guys who are up at the front, they'll talk you through that. It'd be great to spend some time looking at this man Jesus and seeing whether he really is all that I've cracked on about him. Is he really that good? Well, let's look at it together. Let's not waste our time and try on all sorts of other identities. Come back and find out about it. Maybe this morning you actually think, I know enough about this, and this is the time I'm actually going to do something about it. I have tried other things, and they have not satisfied. today's the day you can do something about it. It's amazing. You could do something about it today. You could become a new person today. Just like these guys are burying their old lives and they're going to come out into a new resurrection life, which is going to go on for eternity. You could enter into that as well. Joel, I'm going to hand over to you.